Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of People, Their Passion and Purpose. I'm here today with Cinthia, and Cynthia is a really interesting woman, a very passionate woman with a ton of purpose. And we've been talking about getting on this podcast for quite a while, and the day is finally here. So
Mhm.
I am super excited. Cynthia, I'm going to start with what you sent me. So it's going to explain to people like what you do. It was a really good little piece here that you sent.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then we'll get started from there.
Thank you.
So, Cynthia is a certified naturopath dedicated to empowering individuals by demystifying the complexities of health and wellness. Through personalized consultations and topic-driven workshops and clinics, she guides clients on transformative journeys that blend time-honored holistic practices with cutting-edge science-backed biohacking techniques. Her approach is rooted in the belief that education is the cornerstone of empowerment. By understanding our bodies, we can unlock optimal health and vitality. She focuses also on the overall well being. She integrates nutrition, herbal medicine, supplementation, and lifestyle modifications to create tailored wellness plans. Whether it's through one on one sessions, workshops, or digital content, her mission is to inspire and equip individuals to take charge of their health narratives.
Yes.
So, I thought this was like a perfect way of introducing you. And sorry if it went on a little long, but you do a lot. And for those of you who know me from other places, I am very much into health and wellness and very much into learning more about what I should be eating and how I should be living my life to make sure that I am functioning at my utmost.
hmm
And being a life coach, I love transformation and adding things into your life to make those changes. So tell me, did I say it right?
You're perfect. And I want to thank you actually for welcoming me on your podcast. I see everything that you do and everything that you offer. And I'm extremely grateful to be here and to share the knowledge that I do have. I mean, at the end of the day, knowledge is power, and we have complete power over pretty much our existence. So the more we know, the more we get to exist, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Charlene, for
Yeah.
welcoming me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So let's start with like how you got started in all this. Like what
Mhm.
brought you to this part of of your life, this chapter in your life.
I think, well, how I started was basically a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection. I was ultimately looking for a bit of a deeper purpose in what I did. I was a real estate broker prior, and I enjoyed, helping clients with their sales and acquisitions. It was fun, but I started to realize that I was really focusing a lot more on external transitions, a little bit more ego driven, and I yearned to find more of an internal satisfaction, an
Mhm.
internal transformation for myself. So, having always been, those who know me know that I've always been quite passionate about health and wellness and the connection between the body and mind. And um, in recognizing that more and more, I allowed my curiosity to kind of take the lead. And so I started exploring a little bit more into holistic health and the practices. And in holistic health and in practice, what really works is when there's the science behind to back it all.
Mhm.
And the more that I learned, the more that I educated myself, I really felt that I needed to shift out of real estate.
Mhm.
Even though it was great and I enjoyed it, um, I recognized that I needed to shift out of it and to really just realign um, myself with a bit more of my values and desire to kind of make a different kind of impact, what I consider to be a more meaningful impact. You
Mhm.
know, it wasn't the leaving real estate, wasn't a career change. I mean, it was ultimately a career change, but it was more of I would say, a life realignment for myself. I wanted to be able to educate myself. So I pursued formal education in naturopathic medicine, alternative medicine, and that allowed me to really dive in and um, both understand and recognize, traditional healing and modern science-backed research to support it all. Um, and it's kind of allowed me to empower individuals. I always say, I'm just whenever I have one-on-one consultations with individuals, I always explain to them that the analogy is that we're kind of on a boat together, and they're the captain, I'm their co-captain. And the only thing that I could do is guide them and educate them. So if they want to, drive into the glacier, I mean, it's ultimately their choice to drive into it. But I will let them know that there's a glacier coming up.
Yeah.
And this is how we can steer away from it.
Right.
I will let them know that there are, movemented waters and murky waters up ahead. If they want to go into those waters, again, it's their ultimate choice and decision, but I can also guide them into how not to go there and to go back into clearer waters,
Yeah. Yes, it sounds like, you've always had a calling for this.
I really have.
Yeah. It just took you a little bit of time to like listen very clearly to it and say, now's the time, for me to go and do this.
That's interesting that you say that, because it's 100% that. And in fact, like, the reason why perhaps I wasn't hearing it as clearly or as loudly as I did later on in life is because I ended up listening to what people wanted me to do. Your surroundings, your environment, and what they expect of you, on a personal and professional level. And that sort of guided me into what I did, which wasn't bad. I mean, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I wasn't necessarily doing what I believe is my ultimate purpose. And my ultimate purpose, I genuinely believe, is to educate humanity on the extraordinary possibilities into optimal living, into recognizing that, we can hack ourselves, and I know that there's people are starting to recognize or be familiar with the term biohacking.
Mm-hmm.
And naturopathy allowed me that doorway, because while I stepped into naturopathy, I got formal education in naturopathy. I also, married that with science.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, biohacking is an extraordinary movement that was founded by Dave Asprey.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Asprey is the founder of the biohacking movement for humanity. And I just find that it's like, once you really understand what it is, it's not weird, and it's not like, oh, what's going on? It's just that it's biohacking. So you're recognizing your conscience, that you have complete control in hacking your internal and external environments. And you're doing such to really enhance your own biology. We're allowed to have an optimal life.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to feel extraordinary. We're allowed to want that. We're allowed to say no to disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's like, I like to say that waiting for illness is kind of outdated.
Mm-hmm.
That anymore. Now we have the tools.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have them, there are ways to get them. And more often than not, they're free with today's technology and ways. So our excuses are becoming smaller and smaller, which means that our opportunities are getting larger and larger. And that, for me, is extremely exciting for humanity, and our chance at, optimizing ourselves and also living way, way past this ridiculous 75, 80 years old cutoff,
Mm-hmm.
stuffing down everybody's throat. You know what I mean? Like, that's not true. It's a fib.
Yeah, well,
It's
actually,
a fib.
in our first conversation, you're bringing up a lot of stuff right now, but in our first conversation that we
Sorry.
had about it, no, why are you sorry? It's fantastic. That's the point of this thing. but I might not catch everything that everybody
Sure.
wants. So if people are listening and they have questions or comments, just put them in the comment section, you know.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Um, but what, I remember our chat and you were like, I love when you say like optimal, and living beyond the 75, 80, and like what's everyone talking about? And I want to live to 120 and I want to play with my grandchildren.
Yes,
What also touched me was when you said, like, when you say to someone, how are you? And they say fine. Like, why are they fine? How come they're not fantastic?
correct.
So that really touched me and got me really excited to also have you on because, maybe this is another opportunity for you to plant those seeds.
I
So
hope
maybe you
so.
can talk about that a little bit more.
Well, Charlene, it's like good isn't good enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's where optimal comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely, really, in my core and in my heart of hearts, believe that. Um, well, first of all, I've come to learn through education and through a DNA analysis certification that I've obtained that we're actually genetically engineered to live to 120 plus. Okay, Dave Asprey talks about going to 180. God willing, we'll get there. I'll get to join him on that journey also. But the reality is this the way we this falsified manifestation, that we create of 75 to 80 is actually working. So we think we're lucky to get to 80, 85. My gosh, if someone lives to 85, it's like, wow, extraordinary. Not at all, actually. They're completely deprived of an extra 45 years. And so what does that do? It kind of makes us want to speed through everything. And so we're not really living anything optimally. We're just kind of just living it. And to me, that's not good enough. I want optimal on all levels of my life, experiences, relationships, health, mental health, physical health, emotional health. All of that has to be optimal for me. If not, I'm just not satisfied. And I think that we need to kind of adopt that type of philosophy and perspective if we want to go the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine knowing that, like, I'm 48, I'm going to be 49 soon. Um, Imagine now if 75 is my cutoff, I
Mm-hmm.
might as well just stop working and just start doing stuff that I like because it's a very small chunk of years left. But if which I will be living to 120 plus, well, hold on a sec. I get to really work now and do my work and share my work till I'm about 80, 85. And when
Mm-hmm.
I do retire, if I choose to retire at 85 years old, it won't be because I'm not well. It'll be because I'll get to really enjoy all the decades of
Mm-hmm.
extraordinary things that I've created with individuals that I love the most on the planet, and I don't want to meet my grandchildren. I want to hang out with them,
Mm-hmm.
really hang out with them, like do stuff with them, you know? So for to be able to do that, I had to start tweaking everything now. Like it was time.
This is really interesting.
Mhm.
This just popped into my head and I need to share it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to be 56
Yep.
and I sold a business of mine a couple of years ago that I was
Mhm.
working at like 7 days a week, had
Mhm.
to do anything I wanted to do, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes in my head, and I'm working now as a life coach and in health
Mhm.
and wellness with beautiful products.
Yes.
But sometimes I do say to myself, and I know how to switch and reframe it, but I say, wow, like I'm already 56. And sometimes I think like I'm starting all over. And I don't really think I'm starting all over. I feel like we're gonna have a little consultation here, Cynthia, because it's not that I think that I'm starting all over necessarily, because I have all these wonderful, beautiful years of experience in my life. But at the same time, I always have to remind myself that I have many more years ahead of me, and not think about, how many years I haven't been doing what I'm doing now. So it's
Correct.
very interesting because I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you say, like, no, I still have my whole career ahead of me,
Yes.
and then I'm going to have a whole lot of years to live.
Yep. 100%. And I think that when the cutoff is 75,
Mm,
it's a very different perspective. And I think that when the cutoff becomes 120 to 150, because that's what
Mhm.
we're genetically engineered to live to. And if you're Dave Asprey, 180 again. But
Mhm.
let's say 120 to 150. Gosh, starting over maybe once or twice is part of the plan.
Mhm.
Maybe we're not, maybe that's not actually, maybe that's the way it was meant to be from the beginning of time, and we've been just jipping ourselves short,
Mhm.
and we kind of no longer want to jip ourselves short, you know.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't we be allowed to have two careers or three
Mhm.
careers if what we do is, led by purpose and passion and about the collective of humanity? Why not?
Yeah.
Why is that something that's negative rather than have one, die at 75? How is that positive? How does
Mhm.
that become the narrative for a positive existence
Right.
when we could be so different?
Yeah. So this is really this isn't just biohacking. This is like a life philosophy.
But
This is
biohacking
this is
is a life
yeah,
philosophy.
it's a life
Yes,
philosophy. It's a way of thinking
it is.
about what your life
Yeah,
um it must be difficult for people to hear this, but like what your life could be like or would be like or you know whatever. And I also am hearing that, as long as, first of all, as long as we're doing what we're passionate about, it doesn't matter. It's not even called work, it's called
correct,
living, right? So
correct.
as long as we're doing what we could work until however age we want to work, there's no prescription or rule about when you need to stop working,
Absolutely not.
or stop living, like because it basically is
Absolutely.
living. Um, so, so now I think people might have a little bit of a better idea of where all your ideas are coming from. I just want to go back to your life. Like, how was it for you when you started to go down this path? What kind of changes you made in your life? Maybe some of the challenges that you might have, come into.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, when when I started this, I have to say that I was pretty solo in the sense that, I was educating myself, and with that education, I was gently bringing it into my family core, um,
Gently, gently.
gently, of course, because there's a lot of changes that I brought about in within the people that I'm closest to first and foremost, and then through the clients that want to hire me for guidance, that want to work with me for guidance, of course. Um, it went from a place of, I think, oh my gosh, another this, oh my gosh, another life tweak, oh my gosh, another lifestyle tweak, to what's next.
Mm,
And I think that's when, you only know how good you feel when you take that away.
mhm,
So what I mean by that is, if you're just getting by, then you feel good and you're okay with, the 75-80 cutoff.
mhm,
When you feel optimal, you want that for so much longer than the 75-80, right? So for example, I believe in the 80-20 rule. And
mhm,
a lot of things we have no choice, actually, because even if you live in a cave, you're still subjected to, the air, and air travels all over the planet. So it's the same, we're still getting exposed to a bunch of stuff, right?
mhm,
But the 80-20 rule, and I'm going to explain why it's my family has now adopted it, and my friends and the people I'm closest to, not only do they turn to me, but they listen to me because they're recognizing also how they feel. um, the 80-20 rule allows me to, I guess I would say, be bad 20% of the time. Okay.
mhm,
My children too. So when I now have, which I used to, let's say, have, cocktails a lot more often than I do today. I practically, I don't even look for it, but I won't say no to it at a social event, or I won't snob it or judge it at any type of event like that. The difference is that when I do have that cocktail, or I do have that refined sugar in an ice cream, because I love ice cream, um, I recognize how it makes me feel. So
right.
whether it's inflammation, whether it's, digestion and all of that. So when you have the 80%, which is so great, and you bring in that 20, which isn't, you kind of want to go back to the 80. And what you do is through education and through knowledge, you say, okay, I'm going to have a cocktail. I'm going to have a crappy sugar
Mm-hmm.
dirt because I'm at a party, and I'm not going to walk around acting like I'm a know-it-all at a celebration or whatever and not having anything. I'll have it, but I assist my body in getting rid of that toxin rather than creating a home for it.
Got it.
So when you understand and you educate yourselves on things, you bring them in, and then you quickly want to get them out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so the 80-20 rule, and I have children, they're 11 and 12 years old. I mean, although they've remarkably changed also. I mean, we are very, very big on reading labels. My
Mm-hmm.
children used to, about a year ago, tell me, the question was always, Mom, is it Dave Asprey approved? And now, and it's the truth. And they were younger and they already knew who he was, and what the movement was about. But what it is now they don't ask if it's Dave Asprey approved, because it has to be them approved, because now they have the knowledge within
Right.
them. So
Right.
when they read a label, when they recognize things, I mean, they're mortified when they ask at restaurants, excuse me, what's in your salad dressing? And they hear canola oil.
Mm-hmm.
My 11-year-old will say, I can't believe it, Mom. Can you believe they're putting that? So it's now in their power. And so although they will have the ice cream, and although they will have, they don't look for it, but when they have it, they also recognize how they feel. And it's rarely great.
Yeah.
It's rarely great.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
you
It's
know,
like a whole lifestyle. You have shifted the lifestyle of your family
100%.
through education and
Yes.
experience. I think
Yes.
experience is really important here because you guys are experiencing the difference between the before and after, between
Yes.
when you were eating one way and how you're eating another. And I think it's true for everybody, no matter what program you're on or what you're trying to change in your life, or it's you need to be able to feel the difference in order to feel the difference. I
A
mean,
hundred
it's
percent.
no really other way to say it. So,
And I think, and just to,
yeah.
to complete that, I think that what's important is that, you know, for my kids, for example, is that they not only read the ingredients, and I often tell them, like, if you don't know what something is,
Mm,
search it. You won't want the Talkie when you know what's in the Talkie.
yeah.
You won't want the Gatorade when you know what's in the Gatorade. It
Right.
won't be good enough that your friends have it. It
Right.
just won't be good enough for you anymore, because
Yeah.
good isn't good enough anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it's that thing of like, and I have my children, and I'm not, this is not a judgmental thing at all. It's a
Hmm.
reality thing, that they'll come to me and they say, Mom, you won't believe what some people have in their lunches at school.
Mm.
And it's not to judge, because it's a level of education, but I
Mm-hmm.
welcome parents to start educating themselves, because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't cost more. It
Mm-hmm.
actually costs a lot more to be sick. Costs a lot
Mm.
more. Like, I'll give an example. My youngest, when I wasn't, into alternative medicine and biohacking, had acute eczema to the point
Mm.
where he would bleed.
Mm.
And the only thing that I was constantly given was cortisone.
Exactly.
Slap it on, lather it on, slap it on, lather it on. And guess what I did? I slapped it on, I lathered it on. It got worse and worse. It never healed. And then when I started my studies and through the courses at a wonderful school that I got certified in, called Setsuko, um, I decided, let me try and get to the root cause. We consider ourselves root cause rebels, naturopaths.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to the root cause. And I eradicated entirely his eczema. He has the most beautiful skin today. I've eradicated his seasonal allergies. My husband had fatty liver, gone. There's so many ways that we can just optimize
Mm-hmm.
ourselves,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
It
And
gives
and
you
the
it gives
point
you
of but the point also of not being judgmental, I think is
yeah,
also really important. Like,
yes.
because in this world, when certain people have a certain way of living, we do get to, like me being vegan,
Mm-hmm.
also sort of like that, but I don't judge
Mm-hmm.
other people. I do have a hard time understanding, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize like this is who I am, and I question, oh, why am I like this? Or,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things like that. But I bring it up because it's really about just educating. And yeah, I'm going to put the link so that people who are listening to this, who are curious, who do want to know more, they should know that they could reach out to you
Oh,
for
yes,
education and
of
follow
course.
you on your social media
Yes,
and
please.
have a look at your website so that they could see what it is you're talking about, because I'm sure that everyone has issues with everything. And so,
I would never judge. I would
food
never
is
judge
medicine,
something.
right?
Well, 100%. And the reason I would never judge is because I believe that judgment comes from a place of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the opposite of wanting to instill ignorance. So
Mm.
if I'm going to start judging, well, I'm just as ignorant as the person I'm judging to a certain degree. What I want to be able to do is share.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have information, I've educated myself, and if I'm not consulting on a one-on-one and I'm not building my workshops and my clinics for the next one coming up, and
Mm.
I'm not at a conference, I'm researching. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what literally my days are about.
Yeah.
So I want to share the information, and that I also test things on myself so that I could say, well, this is how it feels, or this is how this can help. I'm not just going to give you a recipe. I'm going to bake the cake before, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to let you know what can happen if you don't do this, and I'm going to let you know how to enhance it if you want it to get to this type. So the recipe isn't good enough. I
Right.
want to be able to share more than that with individuals.
Yeah, and so brings me to the question of what sort of changes have you found for yourself personally, in starting to live your life this way and biohacking your own body?
Oh, I've noticed that I've eradicated, and this is not an exaggeration. I was followed by a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. Beautiful man, wonderful in his profession, and he tried everything to figure out why I had this extraordinary high levels of rheumatoid arthritis at such a young age. I was
Mm.
36 years old, and I had chronic rheumatoid arthritis. And through diet
Yeah.
and through supplementation, I eradicated it. I
Yeah.
don't have it any longer. I used to have flare ups, Charlene, that would come out on my body, my hand. I have photos to prove it.
Mm.
Literal red flare ups on my body of just inflammation, not knowing where else to go because it
Mm.
had maximized where it could go. So it was just showing up in different places on my body to
Mm.
no longer having that, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't have to medicate for it.
Yeah.
So, I'm already saving my kidneys and my liver from all of that medication. And I'm not against Western medicine, and I'm definitely not against pharmaceutical, but I
Mhm.
do believe that perhaps there's alternatives before we get there. And
Yes.
I also believe that we need to understand why we're taking this.
Yes.
And knowledge is power. Know what you're putting into your body and what it's going to do and what the side effects are of also.
Mhm.
I'm not against it at all. I think there's a time and place for it 100%.
Yeah.
you know
The rheumatoid arthritis and your son's eczema, those are all autoimmune. They come from
yes.
autoimmune disorders,
Yeah.
and which can also start, well, you have to learn how to manage those things. It's about stress and stuff, but it's about the gut, right? And you are going to be having an event. You
Yes.
just sent me the invitation on June
Yes.
4th, and it's about the gut, actually, right?
Yes.
Gut
It's
health.
a
So
it's just a gut microbiome
yeah.
reset,
It's
just
just
to
the gut,
share.
it's just the gut microbiome. That's all. Just
It's
the
it,
thing
it's
that
to
makes us
share.
everything.
It does. It's our first brain, actually.
Yeah.
Our cognitive brain is our third brain, and our gut microbiome is actually our first one. And the connection between the gut microbiome and ENS is the nervous system, the intricate. It's so incredibly connected. So again, knowledge is power. Once we know, you start making decisions that are knowledge based rather than marketing based or fear based.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I do always feel you come with that that educational, non-judgmental, welcoming background. And
Yes.
I feel like these things are sometimes hard for people to hear because they go so against how we've been brought up or what we've been told and what are pushed down our throats. But at the same time, the more people that talk about it, the more you listen to it, and the more that you watch the people that are talking about it, what do they look like? How are they feeling? How are they
Correct.
showing up? They're
Correct.
showing up incredible. So there's something to be said about this stuff. And I think the more people that are going to hear it, you're one of those pioneers, you're one of those people
Thank
that
you.
are bringing it out there. You're stepping into the uncomfortable and helping people do that. So it's much appreciated.
Well, I genuinely love doing it. And I think that, just to complement what you were saying, um, generation to generation, I mean, people say, oh, I diabetes are, they're genetic. Well, actually, only 20% of your genetic hand me down is what affects you.
Mm,
Okay. So your genetics will load the gun, your lifestyle and habits will pull the trigger. And
mm,
quite frankly, what's been handed down to you are habits, much more than genetics. So if
mm,
your mother spent every Saturday morning baking these canola oil, refined sugar cakes,
mm-hmm,
that's the habit that's been passed down. You don't have to follow that. You can tweak it and make completely different choices for yourself and your family.
mm-hmm,
And it's okay. It's not her fault. God bless. This is what that individual knew, for example. Okay.
mm-hmm,
We're not going to punish them, but we can definitely try and enlighten them. We
mm-hmm.
can definitely try and improve ourselves because, I always say this, and I really do always say this, we're the dream come true of our ancestors, right? They dreamt about, they did whatever they did was in honor of us, was in light of us, was for us. I kind of feel that we should feel responsibility for that as well. And so, and they did the most they could with what they knew and also what they had available, bless them. We're very much responsible to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know more, we need to do more in that light, for the generations to come that we might not meet. I'm going to be with my granddaughters, and I think I'll meet my great granddaughters, but maybe I won't get to the great great granddaughter, right? For
Right,
example, but I'm
right,
still responsible for them.
right.
I'm
Yes,
still responsible for
exactly. Yeah, and oh my God, I'm just gonna like plant a seed. There's so many things that we do in our life that we are not thinking about those people. And like, I don't even have children, and I do things for the planet and for all of your children and all of your
Yes, thank you.
grandchildren, just
Thank
to,
you.
just to say, like,
Yes.
yesterday was Mother's Day, and I was just thinking
Yes.
about that. All the things that I do for just naturally in my own interest, for other people's children. And, so it's just a matter of continually educating people and opening up people's lives and planting seeds to whoever's there to open up for it. So this is actually a perfect opportunity for us to get into the post that you made the other day. And
Oh, sure.
I sent it to you and I said, we got to talk about this on the podcast
Sure. Sure.
because it's very easy to understand things the way you put it. And now we are talking about, the people that we love and our future generations,
Yeah.
right? So, maybe, okay, how should we do this? I'm going to read a little bit of it.
Go for it.
Okay, so it was the one where you said manifestation isn't just about Lamborghinis and million-dollar dreams. It's about realizing that we are manifesting every single moment, including how we live and even how we die.
Yes.
And when we say things like, I love you so much, I would die for you, we are unconsciously programming our biology to associate love with sacrifice, even death. So
Yeah.
words have energy, and our cells are always listening. But it's not just our words, it's our daily choices. So today's lifestyle built on processed foods, toxic habits, poor sleep, chronic stress, and disconnected values is another form of manifesting, but in the wrong direction. So we're
Yes.
slowly manifesting the dis-ease, the burnout, early aging, even without realizing it. And instead of saying, I would die for you, why don't you say, I will live my healthiest, strongest, longest life for you?
Yes. Absolutely. So, ultimately, when I reference back to my children who are part of this journey with me, my husband as well, we're doing it for that. It's a major, my kids know that I want to live and that I will live 120, 130, 140. And every single choice that I make is in light of that, with them as well. My kids are on my kids' supplements. Oh, but they're so young, they're healthy. Yeah, and I want to keep them that way. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
want them healthy. I want them really optimally healthy. That if there's any type of little virus or any type of anything that, welcomes their way in, they're
Mm-hmm.
strong enough to eradicate it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not whether you get sick, it's for how long you're sick. We're
Yeah.
all going to get sick. If you're not sick, it means your cortisol levels are so high that your body's overstressed and is constantly stressed out. And so it can't even bring in a virus. But it's not about whether or not we welcome the virus in. It's how long does it stay? And
Right.
what does it do
Right.
to you while it stays?
Right.
It's not normal, for example, that COVID lasts 2 weeks when it's when you got it, for example. I've
Right.
had COVID, I've gotten it. I lasted 2 days though.
Exactly.
Okay. So my kids get sick, but they break their fever within 48 hours without any Tylenol or any type of over-the-counter medication,
Mm-hmm.
as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to take a week off. They don't have to take two, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's recognizing, what does healthy mean? It doesn't mean you never get sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's how healthy are you to get it out quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so when we look at this, everything is about longevity,
Yeah.
and my body doesn't want to make choices anymore. My body's not well when it has to make choices that are anti longevity. It's not, no, we can't any longer. We just don't welcome that into our lifestyle, and so when I think of the future, I really do visualize myself and my family and my loved ones and the friends that I'm close with, and I want us to all really prosper long and well together. We have so much to do, so many moments to create, so many things to live. And so why limit it, And when you look at the evolution, since the 1950s, which is when many chronic diseases came about, which is when we started cutting out whole food and we started replacing it with refined foods and processed foods. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Dementia, Alzheimer's, that didn't exist before. How come? Okay. So if it didn't exist before, then we can go back to making it not exist again. We're smarter than we've ever been. We've
Mm-hmm.
got more tools than we've ever had, and we're more capable than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're choosing not to, it's okay too, but know that you're choosing not to. It's not happening to you. You're making it happen for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, the food that most of us eat, there's a lot of really toxic things in there. And so in order to live differently, listen, it takes time and it takes
Yeah.
education. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
but if you
so
have time, sorry, just a
tell
quick,
me.
if you have time, and it's in Leo of the post, if you have time to spend scrolling and looking at, who's doing this and why they're doing that and what event they went to and why they didn't comment on your post and why, if you have time for that, gosh, you have time to really educate yourself on other things, So again, it's how you're choosing.
Yeah,
Everything is a choice. How are you choosing to spend your time?
yeah.
I and that's your responsibility.
So yeah, so do you remember the post you wrote, like you say, allow me to explain, and an old way and a new way.
Yes,
So if I say the old way, can you say the new way?
sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's just teach people a little bit, right? Education here. Old way, eating processed fast food because there's no time and it's a treat. New
Yeah.
way.
Well, the new way is taking the time. Like, I mean, again, it goes from ego driven, which is like, I deserve not to cook tonight, so I'm gonna order a meal that's gonna be delivered to me full of seed oils in a plastic container, that's been heated with the food. So I'm getting the microplastics into my body because I deserve it. To me, that sounds nutty. It just doesn't make sense to me. So what I deserve is getting and I know you're vegan, but what I deserve is getting my meats delivered from a grass-fed farm.
Right.
What I deserve is getting my eggs delivered or picking them up from a pasture-raised chicken.
Mhm. Mhm.
What I deserve is taking the time to, which by the way is not more expensive. Trust me when I tell you this, I've done the math, I can prove it. buying organic fruits and vegetables versus the non-organic. Um, you know, that's the new way, taking
Right.
the time to
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
resources
Well,
and
yeah.
making them happen.
Yeah, taking the time, like
You know?
taking the, let's say that again, taking the time, you know?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
another one, old way, staying up late scrolling.
yep,
What's everyone, that's what you said. What's everyone doing? What, where, when, why not?
yes.
What's the new way?
Well, the new way is taking the time to create, in my opinion, a healthy routine. So you want to be able to, you know, create that bedtime routine. What is instill? How are you dimming your lights? Are you, what kind of environment are you creating for your body to actually go and resource itself while you sleep? Do you have a sleep routine? Do
Mm,
you even know what a sleep routine is? If not, that's okay. But we can help you, So um,
great.
that's kind of what I mean by that. You know what I mean? If you're scrolling before bed, you should be listening to maybe, different types of sounds coming in so that your body and your mind, your cognitive brain can release and disconnect. Cortisol is built from the brain first, but then it goes into the rest of our body. So you want to be able to lower your cortisol levels. You want to be able to know how to do that. And I can guarantee you it's not by scrolling.
Hmm.
It's not. Just the blue light you get from that is like crap for
Yeah,
you, you know?
yeah, yeah. This is great. One more. Old way, hustling to exhaustion. Exhaustion. I couldn't even say that. I'm so busy. I have no time and I have to keep going and going nonstop. New way.
Well, learning how to manage your energy,
Hmm.
and if you look at managing energy, it's not an extra. It can be an extra espresso. It can be an extra this, but ultimately what it is choosing where you're spending your energy. Is all of that necessary for you? Okay. There's, if you look at the blue zones where people live to 127 years old, okay, they take the time to chill out. They do the dolce far niente, which is stay in the moment. Take time to be in the moment. And none of we're important, but what's more important is doing things the proper way, right? So at the end of the day, if all you're doing is running, 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 you're not really living anything. You think you are because you're exhausted at the end of the day, but exhausted from what? So if you take the time and you manage your energy and you know how to spend it and where to spend it,
Hmm.
you can replenish it much easier.
Yeah, amazing. And so, just like we're getting close to the end, so thank you, first of all, thank you so much. I hope that that helps
Pleasure.
some people out there. Just to start, again, it's all about planting seeds and education. There's a couple things I wanted to touch on.
Please.
Um, I called it your biggest accomplishments, in your business, let's say, because in your life you have your family and your friends
Sure.
and all
Sure.
that beautiful stuff. And in your business, though, you have created a couple of projects that are really interesting. And I'd like you to take just a moment to share each one of them to explain what they are and why you're so excited about them.
Okay. I don't think that my biggest accomplishments have happened yet, but I will
Okay.
share the
So
ones
far,
that
so
happened
far,
so far.
so far.
So far, I love the fact that I'm able to create workshops and clinics.
Mm,
Individuals at the end of them, when we're done, ask me when's the next one. When's
mm,
the when's the next one? Because that means that I've instilled that little seed. There's a little bit of thirst inside them now, and I love that. Because even if I'm not there, they still have that thirst, so they're going to naturally start looking for things that are going to satisfy that thirst. And of course, attending my workshops is great and all of that, but I really do it more for the planting that seed. um, I've been able to, create meal plans for individuals that have Crohn's disease, that are going through chemotherapy,
mm,
so that they can eat certain foods. And I mean, what ends up happening is, again, they recognize the benefits. They recognize how they feel when they eat foods that are cooked in MCT oil, grass-fed butter, grass-fed tallow, ghee. They recognize how they feel, And to me, that's huge. I've been able to create, face and body balms, which are tallow based. And the reason why I chose tallow is because of the vitamins that are not, okay, the tallow is basically the closest thing to our own skin and
Mm.
our oils. So when you replenish yourself with that, you're giving yourself a ton of vitamins, right? So when I created the tallows, it wasn't just because it was something that was happening and people were doing. It was because I wanted to go a little further. And the ingredients that I use are extraordinary, but they're also amazing for the individual. The only feedback I'm getting with my tallow is extraordinary.
Mm.
And that's because you're feeding your skin. You're feeding your biggest organ. So when you're putting vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and vitamin E with CoQ10, or with, you're really completely immersing your biggest organ into a fantastic healthy pool of benefits. You know
Nice.
what I mean? So those are fun too. And I think right now, I mean, there's a lot coming up that I'm excited about, and I will share it with you eventually. But I've also been invited to join the biohacking the business of biohacking summit, which is about 150 individuals worldwide that have been invited to join Dave Asprey as mentorship.
Wow.
So that, yeah, that is huge for me. And that is for me, it's an accomplishment because I'm so excited to just imagine what I'll be able to share after that, and how I'll be able to really, really help so much more and on so many different levels.
Mm.
And for me, that's exciting. It's exciting for me professionally, for sure, but it's exciting for everybody else because I keep nothing a secret
Yeah.
except secret stuff that I have to keep a secret. But that's
That's
different. But
amazing. And 150 people, that's not a lot of
it's
people.
about 150 plus,
Yeah,
um
it's incredible. Congratulations.
so it's stuff like that that I get excited about now.
Yeah,
um and that keep me wanting to go on
yeah,
and
that's
keep
really,
wanting to go forward. Yes.
yeah,
I'll
that's,
also be at the biohacking conference at the end of May.
oh,
So that's
great.
in Austin. Yep. And I'll be able to, for sure, first of all, have a really awesome time there with like-minded individuals, but I'll also come back with tons of stuff I'm going to want to share. So I'll be sharing all of that in the months to come after the conference at the end of May.
Amazing. That's awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
Wow. So lots of exciting stuff. I will obviously post everything on in the little
Thank you.
description part on YouTube. And are there any last thoughts that you might want to share with people before we end our wonderful, beautiful, exciting conversation today?
Um, I want people to understand and really take a moment to recognize that, it's their biological birthright, to want the best for themselves,
Mm.
and for the people they love. It's not exaggerated. It's not selfish. If you're doing it in an ethical way, and if you're really doing it for reasons of optimal living so that you can thrive, you know, there's nothing shameful about that.
Yeah.
I at the beginning, maybe when I started this, people thought I was a little bit crazy, or that's maybe how people looked at me. But now they call me for advice.
Right.
So, you know, we have to recognize that it's our right. We weren't put on this planet. We weren't as offered the human experience
Yeah.
to suffer in misery and have to be tied up to, hospital beds. We were put here to enjoy all the graces of it. From really, I mean, it's here for us.
Yeah.
So we have to open up our hearts and our minds to welcoming that and recognizing that it's here for us.
Yeah.
Like, that's why the trees are here and the birds are here and the rivers are here and the oceans are here, and we are here
Mhm.
for each other, for us, and to live as well and as much and as long as we can. Don't feel bad about wanting that. Do not ever feel bad about wanting that for yourself. Never. And you're first and foremost here for a life of service to yourself.
Yeah.
To yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing noble about sacrificing it all and then giving it all to everybody else.
Hmm.
That's old 1980s philosophy. We're in 2025.
Right.
So let's start acting like it, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you decided to listen to your whispers inside your head.
Yes. You. Me too.
And I really enjoy our friendship and
Me
our
too.
relationship and just like
Me too.
getting to know us, a little more all the time.
Yes.
And I appreciate your time. I know you're really busy, and so I really
Oh,
appreciate
we all are.
you being here. Yeah, I really
We are.
appreciate you being here with us. So,
Well, thank you, Charlene. I
yeah,
love, love, love being with you. I love when we have opportunities to exchange. And
yeah,
I really, really appreciated you welcoming me on your podcast.
yeah. Well, it's great to have you. So, again, everyone, thank you so much for being here on People, Their Passion and Purpose. Please listen up. Watch it while you're walking, or listen to it while you're walking or driving your car, whatever it is that you have to do. Just you got to listen to this episode and leave us your comments. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
everybody. And thank you again, Cynthia.
Have a
Take
wonderful day,
care.
Charlene. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Bye bye.